Welcome back to Reselling History, everybody. This is your boy Scott, and once again, for the millionth time, another vintage wristwatch collection unboxing. I've been buying a lot of this stuff lately, and it never gets old for me personally. Hopefully it doesn't for you guys either. Before I get into this, I want to show you something that happened the other day. So this is one of my favorite watches that I have. It's a vintage Westclox. It's an automatic 17 jewel. It actually has a Seiko movement inside of it, which Westclox, Seiko would do that for Westclox like in the 1960s. And this was actually sold at military exchange stores during the Vietnam War, so that's why it looks very military-like. Well, unfortunately, I dropped it the other day, and I didn't drop it that high at all. It was only like a maybe 2 foot drop, and it finally stopped working. It was so reliable for the longest time, but that's the downside of mechanical vintage watches, is they break because they're pretty old, especially if you think they're gonna hold up. All of a sudden they don't anymore. So I'll probably get this repaired. I just like it too much, and that dial is in beautiful condition, so I'm still wearing it because it looks cool. But as far as this collection goes here, I paid, I want to say it was like $100 for everything. I paid because there was a Longines in here, and I'm pretty sure it's real, but it might not be authentic after taking a peek at it, and I want to show you guys, share that with you, because I know a lot of you are pretty knowledgeable with this stuff. So let's get into it. $100 into everything, and we'll start right here with this case. So this is pretty heavy inside, and surprisingly, I don't see any watches in this case, but here is a interesting looking expansion bracelet. Got the crucifix right there, and got some bedazzlement going on with these stones. This is pretty interesting. It says German silver, so it's not real silver. I would think that this expansion bracelet was for a watch, but maybe it can be used as a watch bracelet. We'll have to find out, but that looks pretty cool. I wonder if that belonged to, like, obviously somebody who was pretty religious, or maybe even a Catholic priest, you never know. Right here is a vintage Seiko bracelet. So it's always good to get these Seiko bracelets, because there's no end in braceletless Seikos that I come across, and sometimes it's hard to find these. I don't think these are anything special, but it's always good to have them just in case. Got another expansion bracelet, and we got a little battery here. Probably doesn't work, but nice little watch case too that I could sell with something. So $100 in so far, no watches, but there's hope, hopefully. Here is a vintage Timex Expedition. This looks like an alarm Timex, alarm chronograph. Now it's missing the bezel. I've actually gotten one of these before, and I've seen them online. They're always missing the bezel for some reason. I have no idea why they come off, but if it works, it's still a nice watch. It's probably a $20 or $30 watch, even without a bezel. Next up, we got a little Minnie Mouse watch. We got, now I saw this in the photos. This kind of perked my ears up a little bit. For you baseball fans, you might like this. This is a vintage, looks like a Mickey Mantle watch, probably from the 1950s or 60s. Pretty worn on the back, but this would have been a boy's watch. And I've actually seen this watch online. If it is in very good condition, has the original box, it can go for a couple $100. There was one auction I saw. It's a pretty popular auction house online. They sell a lot of vintage toys, but this sold on there with the box and paperwork for like, it was like $500 or $600 or something. Now I'm not going to get anywhere near that, but hopefully if it works, I'll get around $50 for it. But that's a cool little watch, nice novelty item. And here we have a Seiko. This is a quartz and it's working, which is a good sign. Maybe I can pair this with one of the bracelets that I have, but I don't think it might look better with a leather strap. So that's a nice men's Seiko, water resistant, a little bit of scratches on it, but maybe a $40, $30 watch. And here I've actually had a similar watch to this before. This is a custom time watch. It's a Swiss movement, but I'm pretty sure it's just a pin lever movement, single jeweled. Now the one I had similar to this, it was actually an alarm mechanical watch, and I sold that, I think I sold that on auction for close to $100. It's a pretty interesting looking watch. This one, not as interesting, but it kind of has a diver, like a skin diver look to it a little bit. It's missing the crown and the stem, so it's just going to be a parts watch, maybe around $20. We got some more ladies watches. There is a vintage ladies Timex, and right here, this is not a bad, let me change my lighting. Yeah, this is a vintage Timex Q. It's got a pretty cool date indicator down there, and I think this usually comes with an integrated bracelet. Maybe not. It'll probably still look good with a leather strap, but I'll have to test this out. A lot of times these old Timexes, they don't work, but lately I have been doing good with vintage Timexes because they're an easy $25 to $40 sale, and if they're a little nicer looking, then a little bit more than that. So there's a lot of people out there looking for inexpensive vintage watches that they can wear, and Timex is a pretty reputable, reliable brand, low cost. So I'll definitely try to salvage this one and test it out. All right, they threw these watches in this little case right here. Let's take a look at these. Here's a Seiko 5 automatic, and these, I do pretty well with these Seiko 5s also. They're not really super valuable. There's so many different looks to them. This is a pretty basic look, so it's probably not going to sell for much. It is working. I'll test it out. That's good news. It has a lot of scratches though, and I recently bought a scratch remover for watches. It's called Polywatch, and no, I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but I did try it out. It does work okay with some lighter scratches. You just squeeze it on the watch and you rub it with a rag. I'll have to test it out a little bit further because I only tried it with one watch with heavy scratches. But if you're interested in that, it has decent reviews. There's a link down in the video description for that. But this is a Seiko 5, pretty loose, worn bracelet. I'll try to get around maybe $50 for that. Maybe it's worth a little more. Here's another vintage Timex. This one's missing the battery back, and I've never heard of this company before. Grays, just says Grays on there. It's a 17 jewel Inca block. Let's see if this works. Nope, crown is not turning, it's overwound, but I'm interested to look at the movement. Let's open that up. Another watch company I've never heard of, John Alden, it reads on the watch movement. I'll have to do some research on that. There's never ending amount of obscure watch companies, so I love learning about that. But that's interesting little watch. I think we have some more Seikos in here. Here's another Seiko. Let me zoom out here, you guys. Seiko, and this, I think this is a woman's Seiko. It might be a man's Seiko, but also pretty scratched up. And here is a Citizen Eco Drive. I'll test this in the sunlight, but this is a lady's watch. That's, if it works, it's maybe like a $15, $20 watch. Man, so we paid $100 for everything. We're not doing too well so far. Hey, but that's the name of the game with these vintage watches. So here's a vintage Timex and another vintage Timex. But this one was a little interesting because it says Timex demonstration watch. And I've seen a few of these online. thought it was kind of an obscure thing to read on the dial. Demonstrator watch. What I think it is possibly like a salesman sample watch. I really don't know. Really quick, you guys, I did some research on this. I'm going to continue the rest of the watches in a moment, but this Timex demonstrator watch, what this was used, in fact, was a salesman's sample type of watch that was used in the Timex store. And it's kind of a funny story because it was a torture watch, which they would let like the customers use them and to show them, hey, look it's still working, it's still dust proof or waterproof. But a funny tidbit is before they would give it to the customer, they would intentionally remove the seconds hand, because the seconds hand was usually a point of failure for these Timex watches. So they would remove that from these demonstrator watches and they'd be like, look at this watch, it's still running well, buy it from us. So it does kind of look like that, like it's seen some things in its day, but it's still running strong, it's ticking away, keeping time. So this is a nice little historic find. And then the last watch, you guys, in this collection, this is the main reason I bought everything. It's a Longines, it's a quartz movement. These Longines quartz, they're pretty easy money. You just stick a battery in and hopefully it's working. But now that I'm feeling it, it doesn't really feel that high quality. You can see at the back case, it's a screw down, so I do have screws, but it just says Longines, Swiss made, water resistant. And I think the other ones I saw online should have a little like model or serial number beneath where it says water resistant. So I do have my reservations about this being a genuine Longines, but I'm curious to find out. So I'm gonna unscrew this back case and hopefully the movement will be legit. All right, so I got 6 screws unscrewed. I do have a little simple watch kit that's also in the link description down below, but let's take this off now and hopefully this thing is legit. It doesn't look too promising so far. And my suspicion, my spidey sense was correct. I'm pretty certain this is a knockoff Longines watch, and that is the name of the game, especially nowadays. There's so many fake watches out there, and it wasn't like it was a super expensive Longines. I think it was used. It's probably like $150, maybe $200. But I mean, people are trying to, that's a lot of money to somebody in China who's trying to knock off this. So as you can see, the quality on this is just pretty poor, and I'm pretty sure it would say Longines right there. And this just looks like really poor quality. On back of the case lid, a lot of the finish has already worn off, and you can see like I don't know if that's maybe brass underlaying, and I don't think a real Longines would be that poor of a finish already, especially for a watch that's only maybe 15 years old. So pretty disappointing, you guys, but man, that's part of the business. Sometimes you score, sometimes you don't. I still have a few decent watches. I think I should be able to at least make my money back. Like, this is a pretty cool novelty Mickey Mantle watch. I'm used to saying Mickey Mouse watch, but this is a Mickey Mantle watch. We got a couple of okay Timexes, or sorry, Seikos. You got a Seiko 5. You got this custom time, and this might be a decent Timex right here too. So I think when it's all said and done, I'll break even, maybe make a little bit of money, like 50 bucks off of everything. So you guys, I appreciate the support lately. I am currently working on a project. It's been a mission. It's been taking a couple months, but currently trying to get a vintage Rolex, my first Rolex, into my collection. So that video is going to be coming out soon. You guys are going to enjoy that journey. And please like, comment, subscribe, and of course, I'll see you on the next one. Take care.